watching from today. We're going to take some time to address the fact that many Delta Force interviews that were very viral online, not just on my channel, but on other channels as well, have disappeared from the internet, have been taken down. And that includes, yes, me taking down lots and lots of videos. I have had several people reach out, ask what the hell happened. I posted something on Instagram on Friday night trying to give a brief explanation about the interviews kind of coming to an end. And instead of letting the rumor mill run wild about why all those videos are gone and just allow people on Reddit or whatever it might be come up with their own theories, I thought I would address it directly with everyone about why I took those interviews down, why those interviews, people wanted them down, what's kind of going on, how we're here, and whether or not there is some significant hypocrisy at the center of this situation or not. We're going to get into all of that and much more. And this is kind of, no matter what you hear online elsewhere, this is coming straight from me. The videos were on my channel. The videos are now no longer up. And if you hear second or third or fourth sourced information about why the videos came down, just know you didn't hear it from me. This is me addressing it directly. And this is going to be the best source information about what happened because, again, I did it. I personally did. I didn't hear about it from somebody. I didn't hear about it from someone who heard about it from someone. I'm the one who did it. So you will not have a more direct line to what happened than me. Before we get into it, as always, please make sure to like and subscribe. Totally free. Cost you nothing at all. Huge, huge, huge boost to the channel. Comment below on if you think veterans should be allowed to tell stories, if they should be allowed to share their stories, if they should be allowed to share their stories, if they think it's going to help somebody. Let me know in the comments below. Or do you think no one should be allowed to talk forever and ever and ever? Let me know in the comments below. Hit that bell, all notifications turned on. And then right here, Instagram, David_Hookstead, XD Hookstead. My DMs are open on social media. If you have any information or tips, feel free to reach out, send them there, and I will look into them. Now, let's get into it. It's a little bit difficult for me to even know where to start with this. So I'm just going to kind of go back to why I was doing interviews in the first place. We'll start there. Then we'll get into why the interviews no longer exist and where we go from here. And if I think this situation has spiraled out of control and gone way too far. When I worked at the Daily Caller, which was run by Tucker Carlson and Neil Patel, we had an idea years ago. Wouldn't it be cool to interview a couple legitimate tier 1 operators, Delta Force operators? Wouldn't that be a really neat thing to see? You got all these SEALs out there. You had, several SEAL Team 6 guys out there with big platforms at this time already, but you really didn't have anyone from the unit. And that, by the way, what I just said, is not a shot at all at SEAL Team 6. Don't get my words twisted. I have good friends who were over there. I love those dudes. They were incredible at their job. I'm just laying out the fact that post Bin Laden raid, you had SEAL Team 6 members with a big platform. You still did not really have anyone from the unit. So Neil and I specifically, as well as another guy, said, let's see if we can get this done. I reached out to a guy on Instagram who is a former unit member, and I'm going to keep names out of this video entirely given situations that are unfolding behind the scenes. And I said, hey, I'm obsessed with military history. I'm obsessed with, special operations. I was never in the military, and that's maybe why to me it's so interesting. He agreed to do the interview. It was the first time I had ever in my life spoken with, or knowingly, I guess, spoken with a tier 1 operator. He was a great guy. He was super nice, and we had a really cool interview. He then linked me up with one of his specific team members, not just a former Delta Force dude, but a guy from his specific small team. And that individual was already doing a lot of great things in the public, was already doing a lot of great things to help veterans through his unique way of doing it. And we did an interview, and that was maybe my favorite interview, or one of my favorite interviews I've ever shot. Ball starts rolling. I eventually leave the caller, go to Outkick. We kind of keep the same thing going. it's a passion thing for me. And over the course of the past several years, I've interviewed more Delta Force and SEAL Team 6 operators than I can count. And I've never, for the most part, had a bad experience. And I'm very proud of those interviews. And let me be crystal clear about that. I am very proud of every story I've helped share. And if the stories I've helped shared have helped someone get through a bad day, or maybe they're going through adversity and they hear about this guy who was wounded in action and had to push through and had to keep grinding it out, then I think if one person is better off because of it, it was worth doing. Unfortunately, there are a lot of problems behind the scenes, a lot of them. And over the course of the past week or so, I don't remember the exact day, I've had several former operators reach out to me very politely asking for their interviews to come down due essentially to, there's probably no better way to phrase it than just say national security concerns from the top down about these guys doing interviews. I want to be clear. These guys are retired. They have all been retired for a very, very, very long time. They do not know anything about what's going on over there currently, nor from my read of the situation, they didn't say this, but this is my read of the situation, nor do they care at all. So they reached out very politely and said, hey, there's issues. We've got problems. Would you do me a huge favor and please take these interviews down? I'm paraphrasing. There were conversations that I'm not going to get into, very private conversations. I then, alone and without speaking to anybody else other than the specific individuals involved, pulled probably 40 plus videos off the internet. Those videos include full interviews, 2.5, 3 hour interviews, as well as clips from a variety of interviews as well. The decision, again, was mine and mine alone. No one else made it. I would not have allowed anyone else to make it. And the reason I took those videos down isn't because I'm trying to run cover for the US government or Delta Force commanders. I couldn't care less about that. What I am concerned about, and the reason I took them down, is these are dudes who are living completely regular lives in retirement. And they were gracious enough with their time to join me on my show to share inspirational stories, stories of great comebacks, stories of perseverance. I want to be crystal clear. None of these videos were about dudes bragging about killing hundreds and thousands of people. Very few minutes of any of these videos had anything to do with the unit. But there appears to be a pressure campaign to get guys to shut the hell up. And we're going to talk about that. And it's a little disheartening because I put a lot of time and effort and I thought there was a lot of historical value in that. But at the end of the day, the trade-off is this. It's not worth the headache to me for those guys to potentially get in trouble for something that, quite frankly, would be unacceptable for them to get in trouble for. And if and when any one of my guests gets targeted, I will then sit here in front of this camera and defend the right of the American people to hear the history of our United States military, which is funded by the U.S. taxpayer. I also want to make clear, at no point in time was any classified information ever shared on my podcast or even anything close to it. Not one thing. As far as I can remember, there's no specific operations that have ever even been named. Certainly not in the interviews that came down. Which leads me to this point. I'm going to put this, you all recognize this symbol up on the screen. We need to have a serious conversation about whether or not pressure should be applied to retired operators to stay silent forever. Or if with enough time passes and it's done in a respectful way with a positive motivation behind it, if it's okay for guys to talk. I think that if a dude has a message that can save lives and pull people back from the darkness, it would be a disservice to the public to not share that message. If there is a message that might keep one more person alive, in what world should that message not be shared? There are a couple very well-known unit members who are out there doing incredible work to help veterans, to make sure that they don't become a statistic. The idea that there should just be complete silence is utterly ridiculous. Now, having said that, there's a big difference between going public because you have a positive message, you want to help people, you want to know that you want people to know you went through something really dark and you came out on the other side a better person. And because you did it, other people can do it as well. There's a big difference between that. And then, as we know with one guy specifically, getting out there and painting yourself as the greatest warrior who ever lived and having a body count that is just ridiculously high. And every story sounds like it was ripped straight from the pages of a movie. I can understand why that is, I'm not even going to say crosses the line, but is not very respectful. And if it's not true, it's even worse, right? But let me ask you this. Let's talk about Zero Dark 30, the movie Zero Dark 30, about the SEAL Team 6 raid on Osama bin Laden's compound. The United States government, the CIA, and members of the Navy worked with the filmmakers to make this movie, to make this Hollywood production. So that was totally fine. It was totally fine for the government, the CIA, and members of the Navy to work with the filmmakers of Zero Dark 30 to make a blockbuster film. That's okay. We can do that. But if you speak on a podcast and don't even divulge anything sensitive, certainly not anything classified, now we might ruin your life over it. But hey, if we want to make a movie, that's totally fine. Admiral McRaven, let's pull this up. Let's see how many books Admiral McRaven's written. Oh, what do you know? Several of them. So Admiral McRaven has written 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 books. 5 books. While he oversaw as well the operation to kill UBL. Last time I checked, no one has a problem with that. Pretty sure Admiral McRaven's done interviews. In fact, I don't even have to say pretty sure. He was just in a Netflix documentary about it. In what world is it acceptable for Admiral McRaven to be in a Netflix documentary about a SEAL Team 6 mission that got UBL, then go and write 5 books, and that's signed, sealed, and delivered, and nobody has an issue with it? But God forbid an enlisted guy gets on a podcast and says whatever it might be. Now we've got a huge problem on our hands. Does that make any sense to any of you? Does that sound consistent to any of you? Or does it sound like rampant hypocrisy? I'll give you another example. Black Hawk Down. Black Hawk Down is one of the most successful movies ever made. Successful war movies ever made, for sure. If you don't count Band of Brothers, because it's technically a miniseries, Black Hawk Down might be the most successful war story ever put on film. And it's a great movie. And it highlights the sacrifice of the Rangers and the Delta Force operators in Mogadishu in 1993. Government has no issue with that. Government has no issue with the fact that it worked with, and the Army worked with, the filmmakers of Black Hawk Down, despite Tier 1 members being involved in the operation. That's promoted, it's talked about, it's celebrated. but God forbid a member of the unit gets on a podcast to talk about overcoming an injury. We can't have that. That won't be tolerated. That won't be allowed. But hey, we want to go make a blockbuster movie about unit members, flood them with resources, give them helicopters, give them Humvees, give them technical advisement. Let them come to Fort Bragg and train with us and film it. Yeah, that actually happened. This is not me speculating. You can find the videos on YouTube. You can see the interviews with the cast members talking about it. So the government had no issue with that. That wasn't a problem. Zero Dark 30, not a problem. But a dude goes on a podcast and they threaten to railroad him over it. No matter what he said, they don't care. I think people need to take a long, hard look in the mirror and ask themselves, does this seem like we're being consistent? Does this seem like we're upholding the standards of America? And to be clear, if an active duty operator went on the internet and divulged sensitive ongoing operations, putting his teammates' lives at risk, that would be 1000% unacceptable. And that leads me to this part. I don't know this for a fact, but I'm fairly confident Seth Harp's little book, especially the parts about Courtney Williams and the level of detail they went into about undercover stuff. And I'm not even going to repeat it here because it serves no good, plays a huge role in the situation we have now found ourselves where I'm taking interviews down. That pushed people over the edge. And unfortunately, we are now seeing a reaction that cannot possibly be justified through logic and reason. Lastly, the United States military is taxpayer funded. We all fund it with our tax dollars. It is run by civilian control. The president of the United States is a civilian. It is overseen and has oversight from Congress, which controls its budget, who are what? Elected by civilians. That's the system we have. And I find it quite odd that anyone would think that the public doesn't have a right to know anything at all whatsoever at any time. Don't ask questions. Keep your mouth shut. Last time, to quote the great Mike Leach, last time I checked, we're the ones writing the fucking checks. And I don't say that to be lippy. I don't say that to be flippant. I say that because we are a country where with a civilian control structure of the United States military. We also have the First Amendment, and we have freedom of speech and freedom of expression. And that doesn't just go away because a guy sitting at Fort Bragg or a dude sitting at the Pentagon doesn't like people doing podcasts where nothing sensitive, nothing classified, and nothing over the top is discussed. I think it is a really disappointing situation, which leads me to this. I am done doing military interviews for the time being until this situation blows over. And I'll probably return at some point, but it's not going to be for a little bit. I am thoroughly disappointed with the actions that have been taken. That is not directed at any of my guests. I've loved every guest I've ever had other than a couple who just didn't tell the truth, but nothing I can do about that now. And I wish positive stories would continue to be shared, but that ain't happening now. Now, everyone has been scared to the point they don't want to say a word, no matter what it might be about. You know, like every action has a equal and positive reaction. And the pendulum is eventually going to swing the other way. It's swinging in a bad way now. Eventually, it's going to swing back. And I'll be curious to see what information comes out when that happens. So that's the truth. That's exactly what happened. You're hearing it directly from me. You're not hearing it from someone else. I took the interviews down after being asked to by a handful of people. I made the decision alone. Nobody told me to do it. No one pressured me to do it. I did it as a favor to those guys, knowing what they are going through. And what they're going through, to put it bluntly, is bullshit. So I will leave you all with that. I want to know your comments below. Please make sure to like and subscribe. Totally free. Cost you guys absolutely nothing. Hit the bell. All notifications turn on. Right here, Instagram, David_Hookstead, X D Hookstead. If you have any tips at all, please send them there and I will look into them. I hope you guys all have a great day.